The nation of Israel is a very small country in the Middle East, bordered by Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Egypt. In fact, it's so small that if you were to take a scalpel and carve it out and paste it onto the United States, it would fit perfectly into Lake Michigan, or in the center of states like Utah and Arizona. In Israel, the very nation where Jesus performed his miracles, said his parables, and rose from the dead, roughly 2% of the population believe in Jesus. You'd be lucky to find 1 in 50 there that identify with the one true religion, whereas Jews make up about 75% of the population. More than half the world considers Tanakh, or Hebrew Scriptures, to be the inspired, inerrant Word of God. Christianity has cleverly taken these writings, reshuffled their original order, and changed the very name of Tanakh to the Old Testament, and seamlessly added their New Testament to the back of it, and now sells it as one book they call the Holy Bible. The question is, why do the Jews believe in Moses, but not the Apostle Paul? In order to understand this, we have to go back to the Old Testament, to the book of Exodus. After God frees the Israelites from their bondage in Egypt, they cross the Red Sea and they make their way to Mount Sinai. Now, all the Israelites have seen the work of God and they trust Moses. But God's going to do something a little bit different here. In Exodus chapter 19, God tells Moses that he's going to appear in a cloud so that the people will hear when he speaks with him, and they will always put their trust in him. And just like God always does in the Old Testament, he makes good on his promise and he appears to the Israelites at the top of Mount Sinai, and he delivers to them the 10 Commandments. The problem is that it scares the hell out of them, and they are terrified. And they beg Moses, please make God stop talking to us. You go up there, you listen to God, and whatever you come back with, we'll do, we promise. But please, the voice of God is killing us. So from then on, the Israelites not only trusted Moses, but they knew that Moses was a prophet from God. In the next video, we're going to talk about the testimony of the Apostle Paul in the New Testament and some of the things he says. But most importantly, we're going to give you the tools to be able to spot a false prophet a mile away. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the Apostle Paul. If you're not familiar with the New Testament, you know that the Apostle Paul comes along after Jesus is crucified and risen from the dead. The Apostle Paul was Jewish. He was a Pharisee, apparently hated this new group called the Christians, and he set out to persecute them. And one day he's walking down the street and a bright light comes down from heaven and says, "Why are you persecuting me?" And he's like, "Well, who's that?" And he says, "It's me, it's Jesus, stop persecuting me." And from then on, Paul believed in Jesus and he went about spreading the gospel of Christ. The one question that I have is, what gospel was he preaching? Because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John weren't written until the 70s, 80s, and 90s of the first century. And Paul's writings came from the 50s, about 20 years after the time of Jesus. Anyways, we're going to look at that in the next video, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.